Okay, well, you don't have a question, I'm going to show you something. Because you know me. Tim has time to flap. Mark's like, I know never to shut off the camera. Because as soon as I do, you will just keep talking. All right. So what happens if you've already glazed something and you decide that you want to add something to it? Okay? Because it's embossing glaze, I just said that glaze was like the donut, it goes on top. But sometimes you may do this and go, I wish I would have, right? I'm that person. Oh, I wish I would have done that. All right, let me just show you some cool things that we can do. So if I take my Distress ink and I ink over the glaze, it will be a resist. It's just what it is. This is plastic, it's not going to take the ink. But that's because this is an ink. What if it was an oxide? An oxide is a dye and pigment, right? So now we're dealing with something opaque. An oxide's going to be, well, really, really different. So I'll take some colors of oxide. Maybe we'll take a little bit of peacock feather. We'll snap some of that down. I don't know, I don't want old paper. Let's go a little brown. Brown is my friend. I'll do that. That makes me happy. Yes. All right, we'll do a little broken china as well. Just gonna add some color. That's nice right there. All right, just gonna add a little bit of water to that. And now I'm just gonna start adding some layers. And my oxide will start to sit over the top of it. And we have a couple of options. So this was just wet, just to show you, because I'm gonna wipe this off. It's also a cool creative, like a dry erase board. All right, so when this was wet, you saw what happened to the ink. Do you guys see what happened to the ink? What happened to the ink? It just beads up, right? Because it's water on plastic, it's like water on a car, all right? Oh. So instead of putting it on wet, what if we put it on dry? So what if we take a color, I don't have to do all the colors, and wet would have dried. So if I would have just kept through the process, those drips would have dried.
Would it just wipe off eventually?
It would always wipe off. So even once it dries, but it would have to be wet to wipe off.
Oh, so dry it would stay.
It would stay, yeah, unless you like licked it.
Yeah.
Right, which we hope most people don't do, but they could. But look what happens when I go over it dry. Dry is changing. Dry is changing the whole look of this now, right? So if I wanted to just go in with colors, I'm a double dipper, so don't freak your freak, but just adding some color is actually changing the tonality of this glaze.
Oh.
Now if I go over it and wet it, okay, it's gonna be different. It's not gonna beat up the way it did before. It's gonna start oxidizing the way we know things to oxidize. Now also notice I've gone from an embossing gun to a heat tool because I'm not embossing, now I'm drying. Will this eventually remelt that? Yeah, it's gonna be a while, so I'm not worried. So I know my ink's gonna be dry before my powder melts, but look at how that just changed it. Look at that cool texture under the texture. And the oxide, because that oxide has that dye and pigment, it's starting to dull that shine, right? Because that pigment is almost, a lot of people refer to oxides as kind of that chalky ink. So that chalky finish over that oxide is really dulling it down, and you could just keep going. You can just keep adding. Remember, the more water we add over oxide, the more it will continue to oxidize. We can create kind of some drips. But that's just to show you, see how that just dripped through there? Oh my heck. Because we have glaze under there. Like, it would have never shown up if it was ink. That bright color would have never shown up under there. But this is to show you that how you apply a medium is also everything. Where you're like, do oxides work? Well, yeah, but an oxide spray? No, because it goes on wet and it's just gonna beat up over the plastic. But an oxide ink pad, blended? Yeah. And then could you wet it? Yeah. So it's always hard questions to answer, especially during live. They're like, will it work on this? I'm like, in the right environment, with the right tools and the right layers, it could work. But normally, probably not. Take a look at that. Over a glaze. That's just awesome. And we could still stamp over this. We could still do rubs. We can do all sorts of things. So, the moral of the story is when it comes to glazes, yeah, we can take our purest form of just clear and color, but adding texture, sprinkling colors, putting it over something with ink, and sky's the limit. So now I will keep my mouth quiet. Thanks, you guys. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to give our video a thumbs up and subscribe to Sprout Time videos for all the Creativation 2020 coverage.